Zealand Cycle Classic, the Tour of Manawatu, once again taking us around the roads and the towns of Manawatu with thanks to New Zealand Community Trust. We're going to start with the prologue, 3.5 kilometres from the Manawatu Golf Club, gives us our first chance to have a look at some of the major teams who will no doubt be contesting this race.
Yeah, Budget Forklifts, they've brought over a really strong team with Dan Barry, Josh Preet. They'll be, one to really watch in this tour. They've been here a number of times before, one last year with Sam Horgan, so they'll be hoping to repeat it.
New Zealand national team, James Oram will be their big man, but there's plenty of support. Willis, Smith, Northey and Van Uden. Good team, the national team.
Scody down under, back again, Sam Volkers, Reece Gillett, two of their real key men. Woods, McGillum and Miller, first time racing this tour.
The Data 3 team, they come back every single year. I don't know how many times Scott Thomas has been here, 4, 5 perhaps. Craig Evers, another strong member of that side.
And Avani Racing with Fraser Goff getting underway on the prologue, a super strong team. Any one of their 5 riders could win this tour, but particularly the national champion Joe Cooper and Taylor Gunman. They're the ones to really focus on and keep an eye out throughout the 5 stages.
And this is Cooper just coming under the finishing flag now. 3.5 kilometres, average speed in excess of 50 kilometres an hour. He will be the first man to wear yellow jersey in 2015.
Sets out the pecking order of the tour, the prologue, and it's always nice to get the first win of really the first part of the season rolling.
The stages suit different riders, and so we need to kind of protect those guys and make sure they go good on those days, and make the most of the race, and if it's stages or overall. Yeah, we came a few days earlier to do a bit of course recon on the new stages, and the team here is here to try and look for opportunities and try get some more stage wins, and the big goal here is to win the race overall. Yeah, it's a huge team sport, like a big game of chess, so everyone helps out, and it's all for one, so it's pretty much that goal.
Well, it's only 3.5 kilometres, but it was a very important 3.5 kilometres, and we're now heading to day 2 and the first of the road stages. 142 kilometres, Palmerston North to Ashurst. You can well imagine that it is not 142 kilometres between those two towns. We've got a fair bit of road to cover and some important briefings to be had before the start.
It's just tick it off before I do eventually stop racing, and there's probably 10 or 12 GMC coach riders in the field, so there's more than one coach in the company now, and we all coach different riders in the field. The whole Kia Motors team, we're all GMC riders. There's a few on Mike Greer Homes and a few on other teams, so it's always good fun to ride with the guys that we coach.
This is my 4th tour, and first time I was thrown in the deep end, and I was stoked to make the front page of the results sheet, so top 50, and now obviously looking a bit higher than that, so really good learning curve to have a UCI tour in New Zealand. We're looking at Sun Tour next week as well, so this is a really good way to kick off the season on a positive note.
I think it's the aggressive style of racing. It's a UCI 2.2, which basically means there's no World Tour teams allowed, so there's a little bit less control. It doesn't go the way, I guess, we're used to seeing UCI races go. So in that sense, it's very aggressive. With only 5 people on each team, it's hard to control, and that really suits probably the Aussie style of racing, I guess, so that's why we always see a lot of guys come over for it.
That's why I keep racing, because it's fun. Obviously I'm not as fast as I used to be, but that doesn't really bother me too much. I just enjoy racing my bike and getting amongst it when I can.
Stage 1 of the NZCT New Zealand Cycle Classic, and they're underway, and do not for one moment believe those words of Gordon McCauley that he's not fussed, that he's not fast enough.
They did right. You can be sure, Richard, that Gordon will be active right throughout the tour. He's a very aggressive rider, and even though he's moving on a little bit, coming back from a serious broken leg last year, there he is on the front early in the tour, and you will see a lot of him. As you mentioned, he's got riders he coaches in this field, and he's passing a lot of his experience on to those riders. But fantastic to see him riding, and don't believe a word he has to say about he's slowing down.
It's dry in the Manawatu. My Uncle Ken used to farm down this way. I'm not sure that he would have coped terribly well milking cows on grass that looks like that.
Yeah, the thing with a stage like this, Richard, is the heat today. The wind is blowing a different direction to normal in the Manawatu. That's why it's so dry. Temperatures will get up into the 30s, and it's so important that the riders get back to the team cars and fill those water bottles. They'll go through today on the 140 kilometres, probably up to 10 water bottles. So there's a busy time for the riders who are given the job of going back and fetching bottles from the cars.
Manawatu Kia, who are providing the official vehicles for the 2015 NZCT Cycle Classic, and the New Zealand team sitting at the front of this group.
Yeah, well, the breakaway's gone quite early on the stage, Richard, and a lot of riders in it. Most of the teams represented, so it's going to be interesting to see if they work together, if they can pull their resources. And sometimes this can blow a tour right apart. If you get a lot of teams, the 16 teams in the tour, if you get 8 or 9 of the teams represented in a break, that can be the bike race all over. And there's some big hitters in there. You see Mike Northey sitting in there. Avanti have got Gunman and Jason Christie. Barry's there for Budget. So, Eva's from Data 3. It's a quality breakaway. Darcy Elleram Norton from Subaru Albion is in there. Now, these are riders. Northey, former winner of the Tour of Southland, a very, very well-performed professional racing in Britain for the Madison Genesis team. He's a guy you can't give too much rope. So Gunman is at 13 seconds, but the best placed rider in this break after the prologue is Morgan Smith, just coming to shot on the left there behind the Nature Valley rider in the green. He's at 10 seconds, so he's a dangerous rider to have in the break.
They stream down the hill and across the bridge. Mention has to be made here of the New Zealand Police too, who do a great job on this in what they call a rolling roadblock. So the roads are not closed all the time of the race, just for the period when the racers are actually on it. Gee, does that look like a great piece of cycling road?
Yeah, with Gillett, Reece Gillett just sniffing over to take the KOM there and onto another climb. No massive climbs, but a lot of rolling hills around here, and it takes its toll on the riders. You haven't got a sort of a first category climb that'll blow it apart. It's just up and down, and in the wind and the heat, it's pretty relentless. So the break working well together, it's functioning well, so it could take quite a lot of time out of the main peloton as we see Ellery Norton leading them around the corner. Paul Eldenstein from the Seasucker team on the front in the white. This is a good group, and here we are still with the break. Darcy Elleram Norton doing the work on the front for his teammate Morgan Smith. Smith used to race out in West Auckland. He was looked after by Jeff and Kath Webb out there, and he moved over to Australia to break into the National Road Series, and it's great to see him come back to New Zealand and be right up there on the leaderboard.
Right, we've got a chase. These guys are trying to close the gap between the peloton and that breakaway group. And there's a couple of Budget forklifts. You can recognise them. They've got the Waikato colours, yellow, red and black. They stand out.
Yeah, with Tom Davison and Scott Thomas from Data 3, two of the riders trying to get across. I think they might have picked up Darcy Elleram Norton there. So they may be getting across to the front of this break. If Norton's coming back, it may be one of his teammates, but I'm pretty sure that's him. Scody have got someone there as well. So that Tom Davison, he is just so strong. As I mentioned when we looked at the prologue, he's a former triathlete who switched to cycling full-time to see what he can do. He finished last year on the podium at the National Cycling Championships, and he has got a huge future in the sport.
27 there is Reece Gillett, and following him Dan Barry from Budget Forklifts.
Yeah, Barry's very dangerous, 12 seconds down on the overall general classification, a little bit ahead of the two Avanti riders that are in that group, Gunman and Jason Christie. So the tactic's going to be interesting here. Can Barry, does he put it all on the line and go with the Avanti riders? Do they work together? They'll be having a few conversations amongst themselves to see. It's a long way to go on this tour, and you've got to have the right rider that you're thinking about riding for at the end of the 5 stages in the right break. If he's not there, you'll often see teams chase it down and send another rider up the road.
Well, that view down the hill quite graphically shows how the split has come in this lead group. We're not all that far to go now in this stage, and the pressure is coming on.
Yeah, it is indeed. The pressure's right on, and I'm surprised to see the two New Zealand guys back in this group. Dion Smith and Mike Northey just missing the front. Morgan Smith's there as well from Subaru Albion. So the pressure's really been applied at the front by these 4 riders. Dan Barry from Budget Forklifts, Tyler Gunman and Jason Christie from Avanti with Reece Gillett as we head in towards the finish. And they're working well together now. They've got sort of the number they want to control the stage and try and put some time gaps between themselves and the rest of the field. 5 kilometres to go, so we're going to cut towards the finish shortly. There's Christie just having a look around to make sure those others aren't getting back on as they come in towards the finish. It's Dan Barry leading out. He needs a few more time bonuses. Jason Christie's on the inside. Reece Gillett's at the back. What can Gillett get up? Christie's going to go to the line. He's going to take it out. Gunman might be just gotten it for second. I think Reece Gillett got up for second.
Well, terrific finish. Good breakaway, that.
It was a big break, some good riders, and we started getting out to 2 minutes and then 3 minutes, and we knew it was going to stick. So I had another teammate there, which was good for Avanti team.
And we had 2 of us budget boys in there, and so we figured it was a fairly good situation for us. Then we really raced the last 30k hard, and yeah, managed to get up there in the lead group.
Yeah, up Valley Road actually, with about 30k to go. My teammate from Avanti, Taylor de Gunman, he attacked up the hill, and Reece Gillett went with him, and then I went across to those 2. We had 3 of us at the top, and then another couple of guys managed to get back on, and managed to get rid of one in the last 10k, so 4 of us came into the finish here.
We're all separated by only a few seconds, so it is pretty tight. Definitely hasn't decided anything yet.
So Dan Barry in yellow thanks to his prologue time. Gunman and Christie for Avanti in 2nd and 3rd place. Day 3, and we're off to Fielding. This is where we will finish up this afternoon.
With 2 hard days tomorrow and Sunday, it'd be interesting to see how people race today, you know, like there's a lot of guys here that probably can't race for sort of that intensity over 4 days. So whether we have an easier day today or whether people that lost time yesterday are, you know, chewing at the bit to get out there and make amends today, you know, we'll have to wait and see.
It's always better to race aggressively than sort of sit back and watch things happen, and just, you know, makes it better for anyone watching, makes it better for people involved.
That early break sort of went and stuck, and we never saw him again, which is something that we discussed in our team meeting the night before as a pretty high possibility.
That sort of leaves no firepower left in the chasing group to, you know, bring it back or, you know, sort of get back into the race.
It's what we did yesterday in reverse, so all the climbing's over and done with, well, most of it's over and done with in the early part of the race, so it could make for a bit more of a sprint finish if it's held together.
We come out today to try and defend the lead.
Jorge Sandoval in the Commissar's car as we get underway. The flag comes in, and as they would say at the night trots, they're racing this time.
Well, they are indeed out of the blocks. You know, as we heard in those interviews, very aggressive racing, always going right from the start. You know, it was Mike Northey that lit it up. Now we've got Fraser Goff trying to get a breakaway. And then the peloton chasing. Who's going to control the bike race today? Budget have got Barry in yellow, so they've got really, it's their responsibility to control the tempo of the peloton, but they haven't got a big lead. So with 5 riders in 5 days of racing, very tough stages. It's hard to control the race the whole time. In the bigger races, we watch the Tour de France, the teams are much bigger, so you can't sacrifice your whole team too early. So the Budget boys have got a fair bit of work to do. Jack Anderson just sitting there on the front, protecting Barry. Another one of his teammates coming up to give him a bit of a hand, Josh Preet. You can see how they slot in front of Barry. But so early in the race, Joe Cooper, Ryan Christensen from Bike Manor were 2, then Davison, and the rest of the peloton, all trying to keep an eye on the yellow jersey. So a lot of pressure on Budget. Maybe some of their riders are a little inexperienced and haven't been in the situation so early in the race before.
It's a good point you make about experience, because those who have not raced overseas do not get a lot of opportunity to race in big fields like this, multi-day tours.
No, well, there's a man there with experience and shot in the Kia Manawatu colours, Gordon McCauley. Hey, look at that. He can't help himself, can he? In the action straight away. He's got Joe Cooper, the National Road Champion. Now, that's why Joe's in a white jersey, because he won the National Road title down in Christchurch just in January. He's in very good form, Cooper, and started this race as the favourite. But, of course, he's behind his teammates, Gunman and Christie, who are 1 and 2 seconds behind Barry on the general classification.
You see the riders spread diagonally across the road like that. Gives us an indication of the breeze. Each sheltering a little bit from the breeze, not that they do on this particular downhill stretch.
So a couple of riders have got across. Nick Bain for the Nature Valley Avanti team. He's got in there. Cooper's still there on the back. There's the peloton, still under the control of Budget Forklifts.
So what will their tactics be? Will they be just trying to slow the chase down a little bit and let their man up the road go further up?
Well, they're in quite a good position, aren't they? That with Berry up there, I wouldn't be too stressed if I was, in control of the team. I'd say Berry's up the road. He's not badly placed on the general classification, but it's like I said before, if they haven't got the confidence of him going the distance in the Tour, maybe they will want to close it down. Avanti, they also won't want, Cooper up there. He's lost a little bit of time on that first stage, but he will want to make it up. So there's the Budget hit team having a bit of a meeting. They're probably discussing what are they going to do. Berry's up the road. Do we leave him there? Avanti is stacked up behind him. And the bunch, this lead group, that's still the peloton, but when they come up to the lead group, we get a shot of that. If they're working well, they could eat a lot of time.
The picturesque roads of the Manawatu. This is great cycling country. Wind can have an effect, but it can blow anywhere. There's just enough hill in this stage today to just test a few of these guys who are perhaps not used to this day after day after day racing.
No, that's true. We've got Preet and Jill Kristen there, the Danish rider on the Budget team. Time gap 3:17. Now that's a big gap back to the peloton. That changes the shape of the race quite a bit. So you look at the best placed rider in that is Josh Berry, 1 minute 21 down, and Cooper is at 6:26. Orum's at 6:38. Nick Bain's well placed, the Nature Valley rider, at 3:04. So it's going to be, let's see what the teams do. Will Cooper attack this break and try and close the gap? Will Budget have the confidence in Josh Berry? It's just, Orum's up there. If it's 6 minutes down, if they eat a lot of time today, though, they could put themselves right back in the race. So an interesting time for the peloton. How will they respond? McCauley's there as well.
He'll keep them honest. Tell me, all these decisions that you're talking about right at the moment, are they being made on the road by the riders, or is there somewhere in one of these following cars that's pulling the strings?
Yeah, a little bit of both. There'll be a team captain usually, or a road captain for each team, who will make some of the decisions, as we see James Oram just putting a little bit of pressure on. So this front group is starting to split a little. That's why. Joe Cooper on the front, the big engine. Oram's just having a bit of a chat to Cooper. Maybe they're going to, having a bit of a discussion. Do we keep going? Okay. Gillett's there and Josh Berry. So they won't want to, Oram and Cooper won't want to tow Berry when he's that far in front of them overall in the general classification. Cooper's going again.
Maybe they think they can break him here.
Yeah, well, Cooper and Oram, two of the very best bike riders New Zealand have at the moment. Cooper's in sensational form. Attacking again, looking behind, but Oram, he's so comfortable on the pedals. Rides in America for the Trek team over there, the development team. It won't be far before he's on, I believe, a World Tour team. So Cooper's gone out on his own. This group, this bunch regroups a little bit. Reece Gillett, Darcy Elleram Norton's there, Oram's there. GPM have got a rider up there as well.
Is that Rob?
Evers. McCauley tagged on the back. And here's the peloton.
I'll be pleased to be at the top here, up and over the top of the biggest climb. of the day.
So Dan Barry won't panic while he's got his teammate Josh Berry up the road. Avanti won't want to tow Berry. Just we've had word that Cooper is out to a minute on his own. So Joe Cooper attacking this group. He's going for a long break.
Now his plan here is to ride the rest of the way on his own and do the thing.
There's a long way to go, but 6 minutes down, he's trying to ride himself, I believe, back into the general classification. Right. So it's a big move by Joe Cooper. You see how comfortable James Oram looks, just sitting on the front. Josh Berry is not looking too bad. Bain's got the jersey undone. Gordy puts his head down. And Avanti take over at the front of the peloton. So Budget have said, you have to give us a little bit of a hand. So yeah, the riders, like going back to that, Richard, they have someone in the team car, a rider will drop back sometimes and ask the manager what he thinks. But generally they'll have a bit of a discussion amongst themselves. While Avanti have got Cooper on his own, they won't be too worried about chasing that group down. But I think if he was to come back, and he has come back, so Cooper's come back because he actually punctured. And with the wheel change, he waited from the group. So this will change the tactics of the race. So Cooper won't tow Josh Berry.
Fascinating, this. Macaulay leads the way up this climb. Some of his protégés helping him out.
Yeah, it's Ed White from GPM Racing. I think we'll see a reaction from the peloton. I can't see them letting this group stay away with Josh Berry out there. I don't believe Budget have the full confidence in Josh Berry to defend the Tour lead.
So this group here, the men with the yellow helmets, will be trying to reel in those leading riders, getting as close as they possibly can in the time available.
Yeah, Avanti may be thinking the same as well. They've got some higher place riders back in this group. Jason Christie, who's second on general classification, he's in the green, the Rico Sprint Ace leaders jersey. And you've got Taylor Gunman there as well. So Gunman and Christie are Avanti's best place riders. So they'd be more interested in shutting that gap down at 1:17 and trying to get across to the break. It's still a long way to go in this stage. If they get into the break, they might be able to re-establish it. And there's Tom Davison doing the work on the front. Avanti have decided to maybe put the hammer down. Mike Northey's there for the New Zealand team. Fraser Goff's the big guy, number 5.
He is big.
3's Taylor Gunman, and then the Budget team sitting in behind. The New Zealand with 3. That's Roman Van Uden on the black with the bright yellow bike. Fraser Goff. So Avanti have made a decision to shut it down up front. Christie's coming up, so they're putting all 4 riders on the front of the peloton now. Gillett's there in the KOM jersey. Ellery Norton leads up the climb.
And look how much they've pulled them back. So there's just yards in this now.
Yeah, big turn there by Fraser Goff to shut that down. Tom Davis and Fraser Goff for the Avanti Racing team. They've brought it all back together, and there's Jason Christie. So Christie, remember, lying 2 seconds over the lead. Dan Barry's going to have to respond to this in the yellow jersey, because this is a little bit of a move by Christie. Budget have got someone covering it. Davison's there. Taylor Gunman. Gunman just has a little bit of a look. Cooper, they've picked him up and straight to the front. Picks up the pace, Joe Cooper, the National Road Champion, showing why he is the National Road Champion. Their motto is teamwork wins races, and Joe is sacrificing himself now. The yellow jersey's in trouble, Richard. He hasn't made the split. Oram's there looking comfortable. Jason Christie's there. Taylor Gunman's there. Tom Davison.
So this is Avanti's chance here, isn't it? They can get a jump down the road here.
4 riders from Avanti in this move.
And remember, it was Avanti that drove the chase, that closed that 3:17, I think it was, gap at one stage that we had. It was a huge gap that the peloton was trailing by. They closed it, now they've jumped off.
They have indeed, and they're working exceptionally well. They've got a mission now with 4 riders in the front of the bike race. You're going to drive it. Tom Davison's going to do all the work with Joe Cooper. They're the two domestics, the guys that are going to do all the hard graft, with Jason Christie there in the green and Taylor Gunman, the highest placed riders on the general classification. Joe Cooper, I think he's only ever been beaten once on a time trial on a normal bike in the last couple of years, not on the official time trial bikes, as he did in the prologue at 50k now. So he'll go on the front and ride at that. Here's one of the hot spot sprints. Jason Christie trying to take it. Evers beats him across the line. So they're still racing in that break for those hot spot sprint competitions for the sprint ace.
The Cheltenham pub has passed for the 3rd time on tour. And they'll go past it one other time as well.
Yeah, in this temperatures, I bet they were tempted to cool in as well. Darcy Elleram Norton doing a lot of work in the first 2 road stages. Cooper's with him. Good break to be in. Decisive break, really. Dan Barry's the man that's missed out. The yellow jersey. So Jason Christie, Taylor Gunman.
Can't pick anybody up yet, but there's the Avanti riders.
There we go, coming into the sprint finish. It looks like Evers from Data 3 is going to take it. Cooper's in there. Jason Christie's in there for Avanti Gunman, but it's going to be Craig Evers. Takes the stage.
Good sprint there from the Data man. Avanti in 2nd and New Zealand 3rd.
We had Josh Berry in the day's breakaway, and that was a pretty good situation for us. So, yeah, for the first half of the stage, we were pretty comfortable with the situation.
We had a good gap there at 4 minutes or so, and then it seemed to shred down so fast. It came down to like 2 minutes I saw, and then yeah, within seconds. And that final kind of sort of big berg to go up at about 90k mark was the most definitive point of the race, I would say. Avanti, they could see they wanted to take the opportunity to take yellow, and they sure did that. They had, I think it was 4 riders that just hit the gas up that hill.
But Avanti turned it around really quickly and shut the move down and took advantage of us probably at the point where we were weakest on the day's biggest climb. And yeah, I just couldn't quite hang on.
We knew that we could put Budget Forklifts under a lot of pressure on the hills. And that's where we pretty much had the plan to light it up when we did. Fraser Goff rode the front of the peloton and just brought the whole race back together to put us in that positive situation.
I hadn't actually seen the finish, but when I saw it, I kind of just eyes lit up. It was one of those top speed. You just had to be at max speed all the way to the finish line. We already came down with so much speed, and it was just a matter of maintaining that, and I can do that. Just not as explosive, but I can do a high speed finish, and then today was perfect for me.
It's our motto, but teamwork does win our races, and you know, we're all about Avanti racing, winning the title. We'll see how it unfolds, but you can never predict races. You know, we thought we were all over with today, and we thought we had it all yesterday. So, you know, bike racing here is challenging, and we're walking away and having to remould everything every day. So, you know, it's a credit to the team's work together.
He went well, Taylor Gunman. So too did Christie. And Avanti 1 and 2 as we go into the 4th day, stage 3 of the NZCT Cycle Classic. And these guys get through some calories.
Oh, they do indeed. They do a great job at the Coachman Hotel looking after the riders. Oh, the Subaru Albion team might be changing bikes.
This is the official part of the morning as you sign in.
Having a good time, and you know, I'm trying. I got on the brake for a while yesterday, and I'm always sort of looking for the brakes. But you know, realistically, it's a bit hilly for me this race. But you know, hopefully it'll set me up well for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's kind of steep at the bottom, then flattens off to a kind of plateau, and then kicks up again to the finish. So yeah, you could probably maybe squeeze 45 seconds.
Yeah, for those top guys, I mean, they're all climbing pretty fast anyway, and it's not overly long. So I don't know. You know, there's only a couple seconds between the first couple of guys, so for them definitely it could. But I think the sort of 4th to 6th area pretty much of a muchness.
It's hard to say how much time anyone might be able to get. I think it would be maybe 5 or 10 seconds tops, but it all counts. And being a bit of a shorter climb, it might favour some of the less pure climbers in the race. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
It's a circle route today. We go around the Taunui circuit 5 times on stage 3 of the NZCT 2015 Cycle Classic.
Yeah, great circuit, the Taunui circuit. You can often see the race blow apart here. There's a really fast cross tailwind section The crosswinds that can come can really split the race up, and straight away we see a break going really out of the block. So the guys aren't hanging around at any stage. As soon as the flag drops, they just go, and riders from various teams trying to get in the breaks. It's Bain from Nature Valley Avanti. Gillett's there as well. Subaru Albion have got someone up there. Budget have sent someone up the road. So I wonder who, you know, they would try and get away this early. They're going to try and ride themselves back into the bike race after Dan Barry just missing out on that move yesterday. Their best place rider is Josh Berry at 1 minute 20.
And you heard everybody say that they didn't think that this stage today, 127 kilometres in total, they didn't think it lent itself to anybody getting away more than a few seconds, quite literally.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a pretty tough stage, and I've seen in the past it really blow apart on this, and then the hill to finish on as well. So, you know, you've got to be handy at the bottom of the hill and limit your losses going over the top. So, yeah, the riders may be expecting, because of the different conditions in the Manawatu this year, the hotter weather, the wind coming, I think it's from the east instead of the west, it's changed the shape of the race, but the riders are racing really hard. Every day the flag drops, the hammer goes down, and there's no rest at all. So McCauley's in there again. He said he doesn't like the climbs. There's not really any big climbs until the finish on this stage, and there's a big group split off from the peloton.
No, he doesn't.
The leading group setting themselves up, and there are the chasers, so they're not too far away.
They're still pretty early in the stage. You might see 1 or 2 more riders from the peloton trying to come across. We see the Data 3 Semantic team with 2 riders in there. Gillett's there as well in the KOM jersey, so he's just up there to sort of try and pick up some more King of the Mountains points. There's Jason Christie in the Sprint Ace jersey.
Just gone through a sprint that really wasn't a sprint.
Now, you'll often see that when there's a group away and they're working well together and no one's really after the Sprint Ace points. So, you know, that suits Jason Christie. Probably snuck up, took a couple.
Gnarly little hill, that Watershed Road turn. They go round it 5 times, and it's just a hard little steep climb. Not a big one, but a tough one.
It is tough. Dan Barry looks like he's in the move. The red shoes, Subaru Albion's Darcy Ellam Norton in the break again today. Like Manawatu have someone in there. It could be Ryan Christensen. Mike Northey leading for the New Zealand national team. They've got Dion Smith, 3rd place on the general classification in 1 minute 12. He's in the New Zealand jersey, actually, because he's the under-23 New Zealand road champion, so he wears a jersey very similar to that of Joe Cooper. It is Christensen there. Nature Valley have put someone into the break. Davison. Fraser Goff, the man that did all the damage yesterday, closing that 3-minute gap. Dan Barry lost the yellow jersey yesterday. What's he got up his sleeve today? Gillett, KOM, Darcy, Ellam Norton. A lot of teams in this break, Richard, so this is a break that could really shape the race. The yellow jersey's not there, so Christie won't do anything really to contribute to the pace. But 1 or 2 riders could ride themselves back into contention. Well, Christie's in contention at 1 second down, isn't he? He could take the yellow jersey. Gunman, if he's in this move, we'll just have to see if he's managed to sneak in there.
This is that little climb I was telling you about as they come off the Watershed Road turn up. It's not long, but you'd rather be going down it than up it.
Yeah, Scott Thomas is in there with Craig Evers from the Data 3 team. 2:45 the gap back to the peloton. So there's Tyler Gunman in the yellow jersey. So that's Ryan Wills and Dion Smith just trying to pick up the pace, maybe try and get across to the front group. You'll see a response. Joe Cooper responds with the yellow jersey. So they're keeping an eye on Dion Smith, and they have to at 1 minute 12 on the general classification. Back to the front. Gordon McCauley trying to set up a break. Nick Bain, Nature Valley Avanti, doing a great ride as well, Nick Bain. He's been in all the moves.
Bike just came past them then, giving them some information, how far back the chasers were.
And here's James Oram. Look how comfortable, trying to get across to the leading 2 riders. He does go straight past them and sets the tempo. So this is a strong breakaway. James Oram, Gordon McCauley, Nick Bain.
He's a natural, isn't he?
Oh, he's got a beautiful pedaling style. Of course, one of the many North Shore riders in this race, and come up through the school cycling. They've been well looked after by Scott Guyton over the years, and guided with Scott's experience looking after many of the schoolboy cyclists on the North Shore. And Oram, world class. He really truly is. Dion Smith, his teammate, they both rode the under-23 world titles this year, and both riders capable of going on to bigger and better things in the sport. McCauley, he's at the other end of his career, but he can really foot it with these guys. He might not have the explosive power he used to have, but he can go. Gillett senses the danger in the KOM jersey. He wants to get across to the leaders. It'll be a big ask to try and get across to that group, though. They're working hard. Christie's there in the green. There's Mike Northey. Who's driving the peloton? Who wants to get across to that front group?
Nobody much by the look of this.
No, some of the teams that have missed out, like the Meridians or the, GPMs, they'll have to sort of start reacting. Dion Smith's there in the white, so he's pretty happy. Fraser Goff, Jason Christie, Joe Cooper just riding tempo on the front. No problem at all to Joe, he can do it all day. Great preparation for Joe, who's heading off to the Sun Tour, which starts next week. Back to the front, Nick Bain. You'll know he's in a bike race today, riding with these two, I tell you. James Oram, Gordon McCauley. Gordon just not quite as fluid as he would have been a few years ago when it goes uphill. You can see the beautiful pedaling style of Oram. Nick Bain's looking comfortable. Gordy's just starting to roll a little bit, grabs the handlebars in a different position, grinds a slightly bigger gear and uses his strength, but he's a tenacious character and they won't get rid of him easily.
He's tough, that's for sure. He's done this a time or two. And remember, he very badly injured that leg. I mean, that was a terrible break of his leg. He's done extraordinarily well to come back from that.
Oh, he has an amazing performance to come back. Many people rode him off, but Gordon out front, 2 minutes 12 in front of some of the best riders in Australasia that you see at the New Zealand Community Trust Cycle Classic. It's the riders that win this race, as we've talked about many times, go on to big things in the Tour. Campbell Flakemore won a stage a few years ago. Now he rides for one of the best teams in the world, BMC. You've got, Robbie McEwen won it way back. You've had the likes of...
Julian Dean won it, wasn't you?
Yeah, Julian Dean. Nathan Earl of recent times has gone to Pro Tour. Anyone that wins this race, goes on to big things. So it's a breeding ground for... to really launch your career, and Taylor Gunman will be hoping that it sends him somewhere in the future. Still a few more stages to go before he can wrap it up, but the team is looking strong. Look at the protection he's got there. The whole team on the front. Davison, Cooper, Christie, all doing their bit. So the wind's blowing right to left there, so the riders struggling at the back to get some shelter. But not a lot of, I won't say a lot of pace on, so they'll still be riding at 40-odd kilometres an hour, but it's not Indian file strung out. And up the road, we still have Oram, Bain and McCauley.
Big crowd come out to watch.
Yeah, one of the annual fairs in the area. It's always great when the race goes past it, Richard. Come over, give them a bit of a cheer, and then get back to the farming thing. Nick Bain, pedaling well. Gordy down on the drops. Oram just has a sneaky look over his shoulder. He might just be trying to move away from the front now, off the front. He knows he's got some time he can pick up on that last climb if they can't stay with him. So Oram, I think he snuck off. Just has a look. Who's coming with me? Nobody by the looks of it. 1 kilometre to go on the stage. And Oram does take the stage. Nick Bain's behind for Nature Valley. He'll come into view if we stick with the shot. No, we've gone back to McCauley. Third rider on the road. The peloton's charging. Look who's coming at him. The yellow jersey, Taylor Gunman, Jason Christie. McCauley trying to hang on for third. Nick Bain's crossed the line in second. This is what you don't want to see, Richard.
Gordon McCauley told us, was it this morning or was it yesterday, that he didn't like this, too many hills. And it looks like finally one of them might have got him, or has he got enough road to stay ahead of these guys? I don't think so.
Well, he won't stop trying, will he? He won't stop trying, Macaulay. But Gunman comes up onto the back wheel. The day's done, about 250 metres short for Gordon Macaulay. How cruel's that? Gunman, Jason Christie, going to fight it out for third place. I'm sure Christie will give it to Gunman on the line. No, they're going to have a little bit of a battle. Both riders want the time bonuses. Gunman takes it. Budget gets someone in between them, then Christie. And Gordon Macaulay comes over the line in 7th.
I was just trying to sit on 350 watts because that's about all that was left in the tank. And unfortunately caught just near the end, but that's life, that's bike racing.
It certainly is, and I guess nobody knows that better than you, but those two guys that were with you, they're about half your age, mate. You're still putting out the performances there.
Yeah, they still put in twice as much work as I did. Pretty much I was hanging on all the hills and just trying to chip in with them, you know, on the flats and give them a little bit of rest if I could, but you know, hats off to them. I wouldn't have even made it to the bottom of the hill with a head start if it wasn't for them. I pretty much just did 70 k's of motor pacing on their wheels.
But once the group started splitting up, I knew I needed to get over to the front and to have a bit of crack at the stage win as well. Once I got across, we worked really well. Huge kudos to Gordy, he's still got it, and Nick Bain for riding really hard. It wasn't until the bottom of the climb that I hit them, and yeah, managed to stay away for the win.
They've obviously got yellow and they've got, you know, big fish to fry, Avanti, so we thought we could sneak away with the green, and yeah, we managed to do that by getting in the break early, and we knew there was 3 points there, and we went for them.
This is the third year I've done the tour, and I did it my first year as an under 23, and it's great to see the number of young guys coming out here just to gain experience, and someone like Gordy, he's still got it in his head for sure. Like maybe the legs are still trying to follow, but yeah, it's great to see a good calibre of cyclists coming through.
The good calibre of cyclists put a ring around that one. James Oram takes the stage from Bain and Gunman. Taylor Gunman is the man in the yellow jersey from his teammate Jason Christie. And so the final day on the road, the Paihatua track stage, 164 kilometres. It's a toughie, twice over the hill.
Longest stage of the tour, 160 plus K today, and I think it's quite a hard hilly course, and the weather's obviously throwing another spanner in the works, so it should be a pretty interesting stage. Yeah.
Definitely looks like a very hard course out there, and the rain as well thrown in is just going to make it a little bit more interesting. So just got to be alert and ready for anything.
Every day the race has been blown apart, so with big splits. So, you know, again, anything can happen.
It's not over until it's over. I think I'm only like a minute 10 down or something. I mean, it's not impossible. Oh, this is my first time in New Zealand, and I've loved riding around here, and the roads are great, and yeah, it's been a really good tour.
Every day has been something different. You try and plan for all these different scenarios, and every day throws something else at us. And again, because it's a longer, harder stage, and we've done now 4 days of racing. Anything can happen. I mean, I'd like to say we've pretty much seen everything, but, after the stage this afternoon, we'll see.
It's a big team effort, and I'm absolutely over the moon as well. It's been a great tour, it really has. So, to top it off today, to come out with the green would just be fantastic. So, yeah, one stage left today, and yeah, we're going to try and make it happen.
Priority is us with the yellow jersey at the end of the 160 Ks, no matter who's in it. So it's our job.
The Tour of Manawatu becomes a little bit of the Tour of Wairarapa today, because we go up over the Tararua Ranges to Paihatua in the Wairarapa, turn around and come back over the hill again. So there's a bit of work to be done.
Yeah, a bit of work, all right. There's definitely, there's a tough start to the tour with the climb over the Paihatua track. And straight away we see, people trying to get away. Ben Johnson from Mike Greer Homes in the black on the outside. We haven't seen so much of them throughout the tour. There's Oram again, so the climb will suit him at the start. But the wet weather brings a different element. We haven't had rain for a long time, so the roads, all the oil comes out on the roads. The guys, we saw them pumping up their tyres at the start. They'll run a little bit less pressure in the tyres today. On the climb, Darcy, Ellerum, Norton. How many times have we talked about that boy through the tour? He's been in every move. So a little bit of a break going away. So there's a budget rider in the all black. Now he's wearing that because it's like a rain jacket. Just trying to stay a little bit dry over the top. He'll probably take it off going once he gets down the other side.
It's quite a hill, the Waiau Tour track. It's up to around and about 400 metres, the climb and elevation.
Yeah, Dan Whitehouse for Meridian in there as well. Good to see Whitehouse making this move. Really well performed rider. Sometimes the New Zealand riders don't come quite as prepared as the Australians, who are gearing up for the Sun Tour that starts next week. They've had their road nationals like the New Zealand boys. They've had the national champs in January and a little bit more hard racing. So Whitehouse is finding his legs there in the white Meridian jersey.
No, there's two. You're already on the... There they go.
Now, today is the day where you stay off the lines.
Yeah, absolutely, and a little bit of caution around the corners as well. It's always a bit ginger as you come down this climb. Even in the dry, we've seen riders lose it a bit, but this break formed as they went over the top of the climb. Mike Northey's in there. Gee, he's in great form as he prepares himself to go back to the UK and ride for his professional team. Kristen Jewell, the Danish rider on budget. Whitehouse on Meridian. There's Tom Davison for Avanti Racing.
He's been there or thereabouts all week.
He has, as has Joe Cooper, on the front, as you'd expect, protecting the yellow jersey. Gunman just having a look around. He's probably just seeing who's there, just to get a bit of an idea of the riders up the road. Of course, no radio contact with the cars. And with a gap of 2:25 back to this peloton, you always want to know. So Fraser Goff leads them. The railway lines to cross, so that's why we saw the riders warning each other. But straight lines don't cause them too many problems, Richard, but if they're on an angle, gee, in these conditions, it's like soap.
Everybody so far has safely negotiated the rail crossing. Now I'll go across the river.
Yes, Tom Davison on the front. He's done so much riding for the Avanti Racing team. A lot of work for his teammates this week, as has Fraser Goff and Joe Cooper. They've really done a fantastic job looking after Taylor Gunman and Jason Christie. Christie's lost the Sprint Ace jersey, though, to Craig Evers. He's really happy about that. Scott Thomas in the move with Mike Northey. Yeah, Northey preparing himself, as I mentioned, for his professional season in the UK. We get another close-up of his bike. He actually rides a steel bike, which is quite interesting in the world of carbon fibre today. Carbon fibre frames, wheels and handlebars and stems, almost everything. But the Madison Genesis guys ride a steel frame, so a little bit different, but very light and a very comfortable ride.
What would the reason for that be? Flexibility or something? Is it a bit more rigid or what?
Probably from their point of view, it's just a different strategy. You know, no one's really making steel bikes, and the riders seem to really like them. We have a couple of riders in that team as well, and talking to the riders, they said they enjoy the ride. They're not probably quite as stiff as a carbon fibre bike and a little bit heavier, but a little bit more compliant on the road, so they can be a little bit less fatiguing.
This is awkward. Little bit of gravel, that can cause some problems, can cause punctures, which may not make itself known until they're a K or two down the line.
Mike Northey, Scott Thomas working well together. Scott from Christchurch, riding for the Data 3 team out of Australia.
Gee, there's some good riders in that NZCT national team, isn't there?
Yeah, great to see New Zealand putting in a strong road team. Ryan Wills and Roman Van Uden have done so much work this week supporting Dion Smith. Northey's been in everything. It's sort of, now we're on the last stage. I don't think there's been a break bar that one that he hasn't been in. So, gosh, he's really put a lot into this tour and given the New Zealand national team a lot of exposure.
Looking very comfortable there. Up and over the top past the Manawatu Kia car, and 6 minutes and 40 seconds later.
Well, that's a big gap. You know, he'll be around that sort of time down on the general classification, and a long way to go on the stage. So he may not be expecting to stay away to get himself up on the leaderboard, but certainly with a gap like that, you've got every chance of trying to hang on to win the stage. And no one would really deserve a stage win more than Mike Northey, but it's a long way to go. And Fraser Goff on the front, as he's done so many times throughout the 4 road stages, doing the work with Joe Cooper for the Avanti racing team. Avanti this year, Richard, have registered in New Zealand, so that's why we're seeing a lot of New Zealand riders on the team. The last few years they've been registered in Australia, so a lot more Australian riders. So now that they've stepped up a little bit in level, registered in New Zealand and looking to get a lot of starts in the likes of the Tour Langkawi and races on the Asian circuit. And great for New Zealand cycling that Avanti Racing decided to register in New Zealand this year, being a New Zealand company. For 30 years, having a team here is fantastic for the sport and given so many young riders an opportunity to race at a really high level.
And they're doing really well as well. All those blue jackets up the front, including the yellow jersey.
Yes, Scody's been pretty impressive in this tour as well. It's a team we don't hear a lot of down here, but in the National Road Series in Australia, a fairly prominent team with some good riders, and this is good preparation for those guys as well for the National Road Series that will kick off probably mid to late February. You can see the effort. It's not easy, is it?
No, nothing worth having ever is. And these guys are looking, many of them, to try and make a career out of this sport.
Joe Cooper grinding a big gear. Taylor Gunman sitting there, Jason Christie. Josh Berry's ridden well right throughout this tour. Now look at his position on the general classification, only 135 down. Josh Preet launches an attack. Preet is going for it. This is a big move. There he goes, he's got across to Northey, so they've picked up Northey and Scott Thomas. Thomas, though, still got something in his legs, Richard, and he's gone with the Australian.
Northey not so keen by the look of that as he goes backwards.
Yeah, well, he's put everything into it to get them to the bottom of the hill, but the time gap just not enough. As Preet counter-attacks, Thomas is gone. So the Australian going after the stage win on the climb, heading towards the finish.
Well, did I say Northey was finished?
No, that's James Oram that's jumped out of the peloton and come up to them. James Oram chasing another stage win at the New Zealand Community Trust Cycle Classic, giving it everything on the climb. Preet going with them.
Well, we said it a couple of days ago. He's a very, very classy rider, James Oram. And he's just showing it again today, biding his time and then jumping when it's required.
Yeah, certainly he'll be pretty happy with the way he's ridden the tour. A little bit disappointed as they come in towards the finish. Oram and Preet, who's the best sprinter? Both handy climbers, but in a 2-hour sprint, these guys wouldn't get themselves in this situation very often unless it's going up a hill. Preet on the outside, Oram on the inside. Oram decides to go. Preet's matched him straight away. Preet gets over the top of Oram. Can Oram respond? He's giving it everything, but it's the Australians going to take out the final stage of the New Zealand Community Trust Cycle Classic. Oram disappointed with second.
Terrific ride by Preet. Great effort from Oram. And look at Gunman, just 16 seconds down, which is plenty to retain the yellow jersey and win.
We decided last night that we were just going to be patient all day, wait until the last 30k and then try to light it up, and that's what we did. And I attacked with about 1.5 k to go on the last big climb, and then James Oram came across to me, and we were lucky enough to be able to hold off the rest of the guys to the finish, and then I outsprinted James.
Well, despite the rain today, it's been an excellent tour. It's been really good. The riders did very well. They raced really hard for the last 5 days.
It's been a great tour, and like I said, we got a few things right and we got a few things wrong along the way as well. But we're a new team, a lot of new Kiwis, and we're going to learn a lot of lessons along the way, and we can't always get it right every time.
Well, getting a few things right and a few things wrong. Well, they got more things right than they did wrong. That is for sure. A great effort from the Avanti team. Terrific effort as well from the race winner, Taylor Gunman.